stop here because this is the real. If you hold that, Tracy.
Okay.
This is the real deal, Tracy. This is like a real mill.
We have multiple machines here, Sharon, and they come from all over the world. A lot of them are from the UK, but we're just at the moment installing a new Stenta, which is a drying machine that came from Europe, but it works from steam. So we're trying to move away from gas and fossil fuels.
I'm Sharon Brett-Kelly, and today the detail is at Interweave's factory in Auckland, the last commercial wool weaver in the country. I'm with Tracy March, part owner and managing director, who contacted me after our recent podcast about the woes of wool. In that story, wool broker Philippa Wright said to me, "Find me someone who is making money and I'll shake their hand." Well, Tracy says Interweave is making money, though it's not always easy. But I'm here to find out how this company, that's nearly 50 years old and employs 23 people, has survived when others haven't. So this is basically just a big shed, really.
Yeah.
How big is it? What's the size?
3,500 square metres.
When you see pictures or films of mills from the olden days, so to speak, they look a little bit like that, don't they?
Yeah. Well, we try and invest in new machinery, but because, we're in the middle of nowhere in terms of the textile trade, being in New Zealand, we have to be very self-reliant. So in a lot of European companies, they might have one company that weaves the fabric, another company that wet processes it, another company that dry processes it. We have to do it all ourselves here, so we're pretty much a semi-vertical company.
Okay, shall we move away from the noisy stuff?
Yeah.
And where are you taking me to the beginning of the process?
I'll take you to the warehouse.
Okay.
So we just go down here, and then I'll work through the factory with you so you get an idea of how the fabric flows through the mill.
And how old is some of this machinery?
The Stenta that we're decommissioning is 1965, I think. So we've got some old machinery, but we've also got some new. We gradually invest as wherever we can. So if you look at our stores here, Sharon, you'll see there's an awful lot of yarn here from wool yarns. So Interweave was established about 50 years ago by a guy called Peter Woods, who also established Wool Yarns, which is a spinner in Wellington. Mm-hmm. And he basically established us as a conduit for his product to get into the marketplace. We're not owned by Wool Yarns anymore, but we still are very faithful to them and use their yarn whenever we can.
Because this is all a whole new experience, can we just describe what we're looking at here?
So these are cones of yarn that have come in from Wool Yarns, and this machine is a warping machine. And what happens here is these yarns are spun around this beam here to create a warp.
Oh, and then we're looking at a huge reel that the yarn is being spun onto.
And this big creel then moves onto a beam. You see these, they look like massive cotton reels.
Yes.
And this yarn is then twisted around these beams, and the beams go into the back of the loom and create the warp. So in weaving you have a warp that's the vertical yarn, and then the weft is the horizontal yarn that goes across.
Warp, W-A-R-P. Can we have a closer look at that machine? This is a bright greeny blue machine.
Yeah, so this is the Karl Meyer. So as you can see the cones spinning around there through the window.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're multiple colours, but there's only 16. So
and
it's much easier to work.
Somewhere along the way, that yarn has been dyed to turn into the striped.
Yeah.
Has that been designed?
Yeah.
That particular pattern?
Yeah, so that we've been working with one of our customers, and they've come up with a concept. So we work either proactively or reactively. We either go out with designs and people buy them, or they'll come to us with some ideas and we'll translate them into an end product for them. So I just came back from New York a few weeks ago and going out there to show product to textile wholesalers. We've managed to sell one to one of the largest wholesalers in the States. So that's really exciting for us. And this is it actually weaving here. So not only do we make throws and blankets, but we also make upholstery fabric and also fabric used in safety wear for apparel.
This is beautiful. This feels very high quality to me.
Yeah. So this is a combination of Australian wool in the warp and New Zealand wool in the weft.
Why Australian wool?
Unfortunately, so there's two different ways of spinning wool fibre. There's either a worsted or a woolen spun. Wool yarns spin woolen spun. Feltex used to spin worsted, but they closed about 25 years ago. So now, unfortunately, we have to source our yarn from India, but we always make sure it's either Australian or New Zealand wool when we can.
Will there ever be a time where you can source all your yarn from New Zealand?
Or not the yarn, I don't believe, but we can always try and make sure. I've actually just contacted the spinner in India to suggest that we can buy New Zealand fibre in the yarn that they spin for us. So that would make it an entirely New Zealand product. But we also have a big market in Australia. So, we're kind of covering both ends of the scale with this product in that it's New Zealand and Australian wool.
I think that's what people might find difficult to understand, isn't it? It's like sending our logs to China and then some of them come back as made up whatever.
Yeah.
The same here. It's, my last podcast was about a sheep farmer wanting to give his wool away because it had no value. And yet here we are importing yarn that's been made in India from Australian wool.
Yeah. But, this is why we're really keen on the whole wool yarn story, and we like to produce product from woolen spun, which we only use in the throws. Like all of our throws are New Zealand wool.
The reality is that our manufacturing sector is so diminished, would that be right?
Absolutely.
So diminished that stuff has to be sourced from overseas.
Yeah. So here's the clunking of the loom. So this is the weft going across.
Yeah.
And then this is the warp that was made on the creels over there.
As we move through the row of looms, Tracy points out cloth destined for the US or Australia. But they're also processing local farmers' wool, turning it into throws and blankets, then sending them back to the farmers to sell. Some of the looms mass produce the cloth, others do one-off designs. And the people who work here, it's a very skilled
We
job.
have to train everybody. There aren't any textile colleges that deal with the technical training of, say, like a loom tuner, who's like a mechanic for the looms. It's very hard to find dyers, so everything we have to do, we either have to import people, which we don't do very often, but we have to train everybody here on the ground. And we've got an ageing workforce, they've worked here for years.
Hello. Hi, I'm Sharon. I'm making a podcast about your factory. What's your name?
So,
And how long have you worked here for, Sue?
34 years.
What's your job
That
description?
is my job doing the tying. If I'm not here, the company shut down.
Okay, can I watch how you do it? Can you talk to me as you do
This
your
one
work?
here, I open to make it tight. If I make it tight, and it go back this one. Go back. Now I put it back in
Yeah.
when it's finished, and then make the knot. See, look at the knot.
Do you not
Yeah,
each
single
thread?
thread,
Each thread you've
Yeah.
knotted. Oh
You
my
make the knot
goodness.
with the
How
machine.
long and how many threads along here?
4,320.
So you hand knot 4,320.
Yeah, but the machine, if I do it, maybe take a month. But the
Okay,
machine
so you
only
don't-
takes 10 minutes. It's true.
Did you train in this job here at this
Yes,
factory?
yes, I am.
Do you enjoy it?
I enjoy.
You must enjoy it if you've
I
been here for
enjoy this
34
company.
years.
This woman, they know me. You know why I enjoy? Everybody look at me, I laugh. You just me, how old is me?
Okay, how old are you? you look pretty good to me.
I'm 73.
No.
It is.
Gosh. And can I ask you how long will you keep working for?
Oh, My wife been asking me, when your mother, because they call me my mother. Is it?
Tracy's your
give
mother.
you just 1 day or 2 days. Oh, I can't do that because he still needs me to do the job and nobody can do the job.
You need to train someone else up to do it.
Yeah, I trained someone, but they're gone. Maybe not interested or, and yeah.
Lovely to meet you, Sue. I better let you carry on with your job.
Thank you very much.
Do you worry about that, Tracy, that there is, I mean, he's trained someone up and they've gone?
And stuff. Yeah, they just didn't have the eye for detail that Sue had, so they kept making mistakes and they were taking too long. So we've got another person lined up for Sue to train, but yeah, it's all... And this is the thing, you know, people don't stay in jobs for 30 years anymore like they used to. So we have to make sure that everybody's multi-skilled and that they can do different processes here.
Yeah.
This is for Queensland Rail. So we weave a lot of transport fabric here as well. And then these are a real story here. These are blankets that we weave for a company called Noah Blankets. And it's a lovely couple based in Tauranga who have developed these beautiful Indigenous Maori designs, and it's been such a success story for them. They launched the brand at Matariki last year, and they sold about 600 blankets in 7 minutes. And this loom is busy all the time weaving these different Maori designs. So this is our mending department. In you go. Every roll of fabric gets inspected here and mended. So
Much quieter.
this is Nisha. Nisha's been working here for over 30 years as well.
Yes, Tracy thinks I'm a piece of furniture.
I'm trying to describe what you're doing here. You're sitting here at a sort of a raised, a table that's raised on one side, and you've got a big piece of fabric in front of you and light shining on it. So what are you doing, Anisha?
Okay, these pieces, they get woven on the looms and they come in here. We do a thorough check on the perch. If there's faults in them, we put them on our tables and then we mend them. We fix them. We fix everything in the piece. Nothing should be showing.
With a needle.
With a little needle. Hand done. So I'll show you an example.
Okay, hang on, coming over your way. Okay.
I've been on and off on this piece. As you can see, there are some skips there. I have fixed all that in the bottom.
But you've made...
that's all done. That's all fixed.
So where this red, plastic tag is...
There's a little, something to be fixed.
Yeah.
So it's all done by needle. It had 19 meters of fault in it, whereas I'm spending little time, each day to get it done.
Why do you switch between them?
Because if I sit on one piece, it could take me 2 days to do it. So I can't afford to spend that time on a piece. I've got to get production done as well.
So you've got constant deadlines, really?
Yes.
It's very fine work that you do, and you must have very good eyesight.
Well, to be honest, I had 3 lasers done and 2 eye operations.
True.
Yes. It takes a toll over the years, But this is my bread and butter. This is what I'm good at. What else can I do, So it's not really that. It's just you've got passion for it. You've been doing it for so many years, right? And you love doing your work. You love waking up in the morning and thinking, going to work, and it makes you happy. So you want to sort problems out. The more complicated, the more pleasure it gives me.
What has changed about your job in the time that you've been here?
For me, personally, it has become easier. Yeah.
But enough to keep you challenged, enough to keep you stimulated?
Yes, but I like more challenges.
And one of the things that, Nisha referred to is that, there's a lot of mills in the world that work on the same product, like, for instance, a suitcase lining or something, and it's all the same, whereas here, every piece of fabric is different.
And have you had to be like that?
Yeah.
To stay open, really?
That's why we're still going.
You are the last commercial wool weaver in New Zealand.
Yeah, absolutely.
We need, 100 of you, really, to get through the wool that New Zealand produces?
Oh, absolutely. And all the auxiliaries, such as the scourers, the spinners, and we don't have them. There used to be a scourer in every town. I think there's 2 or 3 now.
Well, we'll talk about the process because
Yeah.
you do go to scourers
Absolutely.
on the east coast.
Who've had a lot of problems with the floods, that's been quite traumatic for them. So here we are in the dye house.
And we're looking at lots of big blue barrels.
Lots of
Are there
blue
dyes
drums.
in those barrels?
That's probably a softener, so we can put a silicone softener onto the fabrics for the throws to make them a little bit softer if the micron's quite high.
Yeah.
So in the bottom here we'll have a mixture of hot water and dye stuffs. These machines rotate, pull the fabric through the dye and exhaust the dye, so when we clear it, it's virtually, there's no dye left in it, it's virtually clean, but then we have to filter it, obviously.
Yeah. Hi.
This is Ray.
You're the dyer.
Yeah, I've been associated with the company for about 40 years, but I've only just started working here.
Why is that? What have you been doing?
Well, I used to be the technical advisor and selling them dyes and chemicals and so forth, and now the dyer moved on, so who do you get? There's no training going on in the country, so I've gone back into industry.
Tell me about your job. What exactly do you do?
When new colours are required, I come up with the recipe to make the new colours, and when the dyeings are going through, I put my eye across it to see if it's commercial match or not. Yeah.
So you must have to have a good eye,
You've got to have a good eye.
so that you can tell the finest difference between one colour and another, or one tone and another.
Yeah, and it's very difficult sometimes because different lights will make them flare different tone, and it can be tricky.
There are no people coming through.
No, all the universities are teaching girls how to be designers, and you end up with a couple of them who can't get a designer job, so they come into industry, but they don't want to touch the dyeing because it's wet, it's got chemicals, it's not quite their cup of tea. They don't want to damage their nail polish.
It's a bit controversial, Ray.
It's heavy work.
Is that?
It's
because you're lifting barrels of
yes,
liquid around.
and you're dealing with boiling hot water. It's and different chemicals. So it's actually a female would be better at this job than a male.
Why?
Well, they're more fastidious. And they're more conscious about colours and so forth, whereas blokes aren't so, colour conscious. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But all our dye stuffs are metal free, hey?
Yes, they're all ecologically friendly. There's no heavy metals in there.
Yeah, well, that is a good point, actually. People would be wondering how many chemicals go through here, how eco-friendly it is.
And we source a lot of our dyes from Holland, and the particular factory that we use is surrounded by fields of tulips, so the government are very strict upon, the environmental impact of all the chemicals and dyes that they produce. So we're Toitū, which is Enviromark Diamond accredited, which is the highest standard that you can get. So this is the old Bessie, the old Bruckner, this is the old Stenta. It's a way of drying fabric. So you'll notice if you ever buy fabric that there'll be little holes on the selvages.
Yes.
And that's from these pins here. So what happens is the fabric is pulled out to the width that it's supposed to be, and then goes through this chamber here, which is a gaslit chamber there, and that dries the fabric and it sets the fabric. So this is where the phrase on tenterhooks comes from. It means you're stretched out to your capacity.
Those are tenterhooks.
Yeah.
And this is your oldest machine. This is the one from the 60s.
That was our Achilles heel. So now we've bought this TTM.
Tell me why it's your Achilles heel.
Oh, just because it's old and it can break down, and it's just, you can't leave wool wet. So we have to make sure that we've got a reliable machine.
And that must be problematic because, I mean, investing in these huge machines must be so expensive.
And also fitting them and the freight. I mean, we bought this, it was landed here after Christmas, and it's taken us till now to get it into a working condition.
What is this?
This is a new version of the old
the
machine there, the
Brookline.
Stenta, yeah.
Where has this one come from?
This one came from Belgium. So this used to dry fabric for Samsonite, but then when COVID hit, nobody was buying suitcases, so they had to sell a lot of their
How fascinating.
machinery. Yeah.
After drying, the cloth goes to a machine that shaves off bits of fibre to stop it pilling, then onto an ironing machine. Sitting at one of the 40-odd machines in this factory is Caitlin.
So I'm fringing the ends of our blankets, so basically plying the loose warp ends in the weaving together so that when it goes through the wet processing it felts together and the blankets don't fray at the ends.
Now, I have to say you look quite young. Are you quite new to this industry?
I guess so. I studied at Massey University in the textiles department, so I specialised in weaving. I was looking into innovative weaving for motorcycle gear. So when I saw the opportunity to work in in actual weaving in industry, I wanted to get on board and see what it was like to scale up the process that we learnt on our desktop Dobby looms, which is basically the foundation of all weaving, but on a commercial scale.
Did you ever imagine that you would be working in a place like this?
I've done some factory work before, but I never thought I'd actually be able to make it into sort of the commercial weaving industry in New Zealand. Like, I didn't think that was something that I would be able to get into here without starting up my own small business. Yeah, I don't know, textiles is something that you see everywhere, but you don't really notice it until you understand what it is.
After going through up to 20 different steps from that wool on the spool at the very start, some of the final products are on display at the reception. What's the most difficult thing about keeping this factory open and operating
Staff.
and making money?
Staff. You know, finding young people that are happy to work in a factory. So really they have to be passionate for fabrics, they have to be passionate for wool, and they're really the only people that are going to come here and give us the next generation of workers that are passionate about the product. There's so many other fibres out there when it comes to fabrics. Like, wool is about 1% of all the fibres sold. When I went to Chicago a couple of months ago, I went to a show out there, which is a commercial furniture show called Neocon. There is so much greenwashing, you know, recycled polyester. People don't seem to consider the actual energy spent in the recycling of the process, you know, it's...
Is it like remaking the fabric all over again?
Yeah, and it uses a lot of energy, it uses a lot of chemicals. You know, things like bamboo is, you know, promoted as a natural product. The amount of chemicals that you have to use on a piece of bamboo to create a fibre is ridiculous. So, you know, wool's just the best. It's just sustainable, natural, rapidly renewable. It's just a wonderful fibre, and the way it takes colour as well is really beautiful.
You can see
And
it.
I just think it must be heartbreaking for the farmers at the moment when they're throwing their wool away or using it as mulch. It's crazy.
That's it for today. I'm Sharon Brett Kelly. The Detail is supported by the Public Interest Journalism Fund. Today's episode was engineered by Jeremy Ansell. Our producers are Sarah Robson and Bonnie Harrison. And thanks to Tracy March and the rest of the team at Interweave. Mā te wā.